We start with something helpful. Support comes from Zbiotics. I have to tell you about this game-changing product that I use a night before drinking. It is called pre-alcohol. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic invented by PhD scientists to tackle those rough mornings after drinking. So here's how it works. When you drink, the alcohol converts into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's that buildup. It's not dehydration. That is what leaves you feeling awful. Pre-alcohol helps break it down so you can wake up feeling like yourself. The first time I tried it was before a friend's dinner party. It was great. I had my usual tequila, celebrated all night, and the next morning I was on top of my game. No problem getting work done, no sluggish fog. So fall is here. So whether you're tailgating, watching your favorite team, or just enjoying a night out, make Zbiotics your first drink of the night. Go to zbiotics.com/lemon and use the code LEMON for 15% off of your first order. They even back it with a 100% money back guarantee.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hot Topics, the Don Lemon Show. Happy that you're here. Look at the beautiful faces we have this morning, joining us on the Don Lemon Show on Hot Topics. We have the great Reecie Colbert.
Good morning, team.
As our guest, a political commentator and the host of SiriusXM's Urban View. And then Jack Cocchiarella is a host of the Jack Cocchiarella Show on YouTube. We are here in Washington, D.C. The Congressional Black Caucus is going on. We have 1 week to fund the government. So many issues. And then we're going to talk about what I call the censorship fail on behalf of the administration. And also the shooting that happened in Dallas, Texas. So why don't we start with what happened in Dallas? By the way, welcome. Good morning. Thank you guys for joining. We're waiting for our breakfast. I was going to start. I was like, where shouldn't we start with breakfast? But hopefully the breakfast will come as we are here. Jack was a lucky one. He was able to get his coffee.
I know. I needed it the most, probably.
And by the way, I think that the cushion is sunken here because I'm feeling short. I need a booster chair.
Don is very tall for the record. He's taller than me. Okay.
Am I?
I was going to say, we could stand up and do the height comparison, but I don't think it would look great for us.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'6", and I also have my heels on, so I'm doing 6'9" today. So.
Oh, he does. And you are?
I'm 5'9".
Okay, so I am taller than you.
You're taller.
Okay.
100% taller.
Phew. Okay. Anyways, so let's start. So this is the Dallas ICE shooting, and this is from the New York Times of what we know about the Dallas ICE shooting. And we had 2 people who died, plus the shooter. The thing for me is that the evidence that they are releasing, the way that they're talking about it, is unusual in the way that we usually deal with and get information. Thank you very much. And get information about these shootings. The FBI director tweeting out evidence, bullets, and all of that. Lots of conspiracy theories out there.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about it?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how everybody is John Wick all of a sudden. Like, they're out for revenge. They're doing arts and crafts on bullet casings. Like, really? Whatever happened to tweeting out your confessions or, like, message boards? And now everybody is putting messages on bullets. I just find it very, very hard to believe. And I think if you're going to be anti-ICE, why don't you say, like, ICE? You know, who puts anti-ICE on there? So I just think that, you know, I hate to be, like, all deep state government conspiracy theory because I feel like I'm switching roles with...
Did you want an avocado? Right?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hate to be, like, switching roles with MAGA, not trusting the government, but... it just doesn't pass the smell test to me.
Well, what examples have they given us lately of reasons to trust them? It's like the last time Kash Patel put out a tweet a little too early, and Vance even said during the speech that he was giving, because he decided he would do a little preamble and talk about the shooting that just happened, he even said, I have evidence that suggests this ideological motive. We're not going to show it to you yet.
Yeah.
And then we get these bullet casings with the Sharpie on them, but the bullets are like kind of attached. Doesn't make a lot of sense. The last time Patel tweeted before an investigation had been closed, he immediately had to retract an hour later. It's just like this administration is always focused on the Fox News hit. Especially Patel is really interested in like his Twitter game lately.
Yeah.
But they know who their audience is. It's an audience of one. They want to make sure Trump sees it. But no, we don't have a reason to trust what the government is saying right now. So, you know, when we first saw the photos of Tyler Robinson, the alleged Charlie Kirk shooter, I was hesitant to put them on my show because we saw the older man at the shooting who had been tackled.
Right.
And it's like, are we going to ruin another person's life who wasn't involved in the shooting because we're getting bad information from the government? So it's difficult to trust, especially with what we've seen as of late.
Right.
I just don't know what to do, and I don't feel full MAGA for saying that.
No,
I think it's okay. Yeah, I think we're on the same page.
Is it blue MAGA or is it what is
Blue
the
Anon?
term now? Blue Anon, like QAnon. Yeah. Because I did the show yesterday. Our 5 o'clock show was based around all of these conspiracy theories because we don't know in this administration what to believe and what not, and you just gave the evidence and information for that. But it is odd that someone is saying anti-ICE.
Yeah.
Right. Who talks like that?
Or with a Sharpie.
I'm going
and just on one.
I'm going to text or call my transgender partner and give them every single detail about the shooting.
Yeah.
And I want to see, I'm not saying that I am a conspiracy theorist, but I want to see the actual text messages, whatever information redacted that needs to be private, because there's so much misinformation out there, and because people are coming up with conspiracy theories. You know what I'm saying?
No, because it's like you go from like Sniper to Romeo and Juliet all of a sudden in your text messages. It just does not pass the smell test. And so obviously they're trying to push this like reality show agenda. They're producing the country in a way to try to suggest that there's this massive radical left violence. And the thing that stood out the most to me with the Dallas ICE shooter is that the victim is a detainee. So I'm like, I know you're deranged because killing people unprovoked is deranged. But are you that incompetent that you're protesting and then you're killing the people who are victims of the thing you're protesting? That just makes no sense to me whatsoever.
And I think, a lot of us have had the kind of internal struggle of wanting to ask these questions, but not wanting it to feel like a conspiracy. I think we are allowed to distrust this administration. And if any of this would be provided in a court of law or we'd see an investigation closed, I don't think anyone's really going to be challenging what's being said. But I think it's okay to ask these questions right now. And especially around this shooter in Dallas yesterday, when Vance immediately wants to jump to say there's an ideological motive here, let me fit my narrative. He keeps talking about people calling us Nazis. I'm like, do you remember JD Vance? Like this guy JD Vance also said in a text message that Donald Trump was going to be America's Hitler. I think that JD Vance was bang on. I don't know where that guy went or if he ever existed.
I want to play that. There's a 17-second delay. You guys just run it if you can, but it's JD Vance from yesterday saying that it was left-wing political violence. And then there was a discussion that I want you to run right after on the morning show, them discussing on a morning show how J.D. Vance is lying, how the right-wing media sphere lying about most of the political violence being on the left, even in recent times. These two, the latest two that happened, could well indeed be that. It looks like it's pointing towards that. But just because it's two in a row does not mean that it changes or skews the numbers about where the violence is actually coming from, mainly the right. And is that really? So we'll play it. Just run it whenever you get it. And we'll eat here for 17 seconds.
I know. I'm glad
a couple of weeks, and that was true maybe until this morning, because I don't know if you all have followed the news, and we're still learning a little bit about it. But what we know is that in Dallas, Texas, an ICE facility, an Immigrations and Customs Enforcement facility, was opened fire upon by a violent left-wing extremist, a person who wrote anti-ICE messaging on their bullets. And there's some evidence that we have that's not yet public, but we know this person was politically motivated. They were politically motivated to go after law enforcement. They were politically motivated to go after people who are enforcing our border. And I think that is the most disgusting thing. The very people.
Why? Why do they do this? Like, why is it so important for them? Instead of trying to bring the country together, why is it so important for them to try to tear us apart? Why are they doing this? Why is J.D. Vance continuing to lie when Cato, when CSIS, when every other study shows that the predominance of political violence in America has come from the right? And again, you don't hear me saying, oh, this is all the Republicans' fault. What you hear me saying is these people are crazy, and we, the 90% of the sane people in America, we need to come together. and move the country beyond this and be a better example for all? I don't know.
That's leadership. What we saw from J.D. Vance is not leadership.
But what, I mean, I think Joe Scarborough, that's a very good question for him. Why do people on the right, why do they continue to lie? He mentioned the Cato Institute. We talked about what happened with the Anti-Defamation League, where it shows clearly on the right, what is the point of them and right-wing manosphere and
they don't
folks like even like Megyn Kelly and what's
any institution, which is why I don't feel bad or feel uncomfortable or feel like I'm creating the environment in which we can't trust facts or statistics when we're challenging the FBI. And it's not challenging the FBI. What Kash Patel puts out on Twitter or what J.D. Vance says in a stump speech to try to get the crowd riled up is not actual reporting. That is not evidence. We are not in a court of law. So I don't feel uncomfortable challenging that, especially when the right is so intent on pushing this narrative. I also feel like, of course, we are in hyper-polarized times. The idea that either of these individuals have to ascribe themselves to a political party rather than just being dissatisfied with their lives, of course, as we see increasingly the problem with young men in America or my generation, it's a complete misreading of the situation. And it just, again, goes to show what we saw with Kirk, that they don't largely care. I don't think that Donald Trump really cared about Charlie Kirk. He was immediately talking about his ballroom the day after. And he was like, well, I'm fantastic and I think things are great. And so J.D. Vance doesn't really seem to care about this crisis of young men in America because he's immediately just trying to get political gain out of it.
But Jack, that was the thing that got Jimmy Kimmel in trouble for pointing that out when they said, oh my gosh, he's criticizing, what's his name? Oh my God, I can't even remember the guys.
What was the guy?
The guy who was killed.
Oh, Charlie?
Charlie Kirk. I have so many names in my head.
It's old news now. We've moved on.
I actually did not know that much about him before. I didn't know about Turning. Before I got into the streaming world, I didn't know much about Turning Point USA or Charlie Kirk. Can I get some butter, please, sir? We can get a second.
But here's the thing.
But that was the thing that got Jimmy Kimmel in trouble, is for pointing that out. What you mentioned, what he just talked about, Reecie, was it doesn't really, the only thing that changes is the ideology. It doesn't change the profile of the person, a young white man, this one and the one before, and the one before that, and the one before that.
But to your point, we have to remember right-wing governments, COINTELPRO, there's a history of them kind of setting out these false flags or trying to paint a narrative that isn't accurate. And so, you know, if you think about the kinds of people who would deface their own home and with Black Lives Matter, and, you know, like the fact that a detainee was the one killed by a sniper, reportedly, right? That's what he was. He was a sniper. Isn't it kind of like, if you are a right winger, right? You kill a detainee, but then you blame it on the left. Like, that's like, I'm going full conspiracy theorist here, but I'm just saying that I think that either you could say that it's somebody who's this evil genius, and they're like, I'm going to pin a detainee's death on the left wing and anti-ICE, or it could also be, I want attention. Because if this person had said F immigrants, there would be a 2-second conversation. They would be moving on. We would never see bullet casings with arts and crafts.
Oh, they did move on when they saw it wasn't a law enforcement official who was killed. J.D. Vance immediately pivoted. He had to redact and edit the tweet that he put out. So did Christine Noem. He had to change the tweet.
Oh, really?
Because they were saying that law enforcement officials were killed. Law enforcement officials were injured.
But again, that's why you can't trust the information coming out of this administration.
So that's why when their tweets and their statements too early, I don't feel bad questioning it or saying I'm not sure how I feel. But it's also important, of course, no one's going to justify what happened in Dallas yesterday. But to point out the fact that in this conversation about political violence, why aren't we talking about the political violence carried out by ICE every single day? Barging into communities, purposely trying to make people intimidated and scared. Wasn't it that they were holding a 5-year-old girl outside of her house to get her father to come out so that they could detain him? It's like, are we not having that conversation of political violence that creates a level of unrest and fear in everyone? Not that I want to like directly attribute it to what happened, but like this is the culture that we've built. It's no wonder that people, whether you're apolitical or hyper-partisan, are feeling like hopeless. This is what you see every day.
Right.
But isn't that just amping up or ramping up even the possibility of more political violence with these. I think what they're doing is obviously irresponsible.
Yeah.
I think it's obviously on purpose when I think the role of people in government, especially the administration, our leader, is to bring us together to bring the temperature down, and instead they're out here pointing fingers at people.
Yeah.
And there was a very interesting conversation that I had with a gentleman. I want you guys to get the soundbite ready and just run it whenever. Last night on the street. And you can cut me off whenever I'm saying just run it. When he talked about what he believed trans women should be doing, it was quite different than what other folks were saying. He believes that they should arm up because they
Did you
are
hear about
the
what
most
happened in Dallas today?
Yeah.
And about gun violence, and he's kind of over it, and I'm kind of over it.
Aren't we all over it? It's just the
I'm
same.
on the opposite end of that, I think. I think that as things are getting more dangerous, marginalized communities need to get armed, trans women in particular. I think that it's just so dangerous out here right now. I know that D.C. is just a congregation of high school class presidents.
What? Oh my God.
You go out in Baltimore, you
Hilarious.
see signs everywhere that says armed trans women, and it's because they're the most vulnerable people right now, I could imagine.
I've gone back and forth on that too, because I do think we're so far gone on gun reform and control that everyone's armed at this point.
I think there's more guns than people right now. I think
I
the cat's
agree,
out.
but it's like if we're arming more people, I don't know what that helps solve, I guess.
marginalized communities need to get armed, especially trans women in particular. That shows you just how people are, interpreting this information, taking in this information in different ways. What would happen if people started arming up more,
Yeah, well, I feel like most people understand if you're from a marginalized community, this federal government is not here to protect you. They've actually declared war on people who are not cisgender, white, Christian males. And so I'm not necessarily advocating for that. I've always been team, let's vote because the other side has more guns and they're better at aiming than we are. And so,
For now,
right? We got a long way to go before we catch up. But when people feel that the democratic process does not work, then we see violence.
Yeah.
We see political violence. And when people feel left behind and actually targeted, then there's a fight, mechanism that kicks in. And so I think that Republicans should be especially invested in trying to bring this country back to some sense of democracy because they're in charge. And when you're in charge, you're the one that's going to be the target.
Come on, Reecie.
Well, I think
you know what's happening right now.
What?
They're not invested in helping the country. They're invested in increasing political power, clout, making tons of money right now.
Right.
And
so it's the only thing they're doing real well.
is making a lot of money.
Making a lot of money for themselves. But your point kind of raises something that I saw yesterday was it's a really viral video, this parent talking about if you have a son who's starting to kind of go down the alt-right pipeline, like how to have conversations with him. A lot of it was like, don't dismiss what they're saying because dismissal leads to more victimhood. But when you don't understand the difference between being uncomfortable and being oppressed, right? If you're a 22-year-old white man, self. So some of us are doing all right. You see the Andrew Tate clips, or you're mad at the feminist, and you think that you're being oppressed because you see things that you don't like on your TikTok feed, and you don't know what real oppression is. And it's just that sense of uncomfortability, and you can't distinguish. You start to lash out. But I feel like everyone in the country feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Everyone feels uneasy about, just name whatever it may be. It's the epidemic of gun violence, it's the crisis of affordability, the future because of a climate catastrophe that's still looming, but I guess we don't talk about anymore. It's like everyone is uncomfortable.
That part.
Everyone feels boxed out. And especially a group of young men who don't know the difference between actually being oppressed or just being uncomfortable. They don't know what it's like to reckon with this. No one wants to listen to them because, honestly, those thoughts should be dismissed. But when you do, it makes it even worse. And so we've gotten to this place. And it's only in being inflamed. I know it's not an original thing to say, but what you're viewing on social media. But everyone is constantly uncomfortable, no matter where we are. And that is such a crisis.
Eat, Jack, eat. And can I have some of your potatoes?
Please do.
Do you have ketchup over there?
I got a little something. I'm not sure if it's ketchup, but
We got to get some
I'll
ketchup.
just figure it out.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah. I think I'm going to do it. So let me ask
This is a
you.
sharing is caring moment.
I want to ask you about that because you said that everyone is feeling uncomfortable. So do you think that the folks on the right, the MAGA folks, you think they're feeling uncomfortable? Yeah.
Why do you think they act the way they do?
Yeah.
Because they don't understand. Well, conservatism is about like holding on to something. Mm-hmm. Whenever I ask someone who's clearly like reckoning with their political ideology and they say that they're conservative, I'm like, well, fundamentally, what do you want to conserve? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not national parks or the climate. You're not clearly trying to keep the national debt. So what are you after? And then they're holding on to something that I think these people fundamentally misunderstand. An idea about what the identity of America is. I always talk about Western culture. I'm like, have you read, like, are you reading something? Like, what have we read that, what is the canon that you've read that you perceive to be the American culture besides, like, wanting to hang on to this idea that we need to be a majority white nation?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they're uncomfortable because they don't get what change around them means or looks like or how they fit into it. And so, of course, they're going to lash out. These are people who are often so isolated, so much more in my generation now. Yeah. And if you don't, one, understand things, you're going to hide. And not to pivot to like a whole critique of democratic messaging, that's why I think right now the most empowering thing we can do, and we're going to talk about someone who's doing it really well later in Zohran Mamdani, is like educate people. Have them understand what is working and what's not. But I do feel like everyone's uncomfortable because they don't know what they're seeing around them, and they're just constantly facing down images that they're just sad or upset or angry with or confused. And I feel like that's kind of the state that largely social media companies want us to be. Individual influencers want you upset and alone and engaging with them. It's more profitable.
Can I just ask Jack another question? So this young man, not in his 20s, he was a bit older than 20s, probably in his 30s, but I saw him last night when I went out after dinner just to chat, Man on the Streets. And he said, I think people should stop. We should try to be kinder to each other. Yes. We should interact with each other, which I agree. And he said, you should say hello to people.
I say this all the time.
Okay, but let me say this. Since you mentioned the whole thing, white males or MAGA and that sort of thing. Can you really be that friendly and happy with someone who is someone who's undermining your own existence and your rights, is saying you should not be able to get married, trans people should not exist?
I don't think you have to be.
Okay, so that's what, and so,
but that's like, tough to get him to understand I think that's a structural, like at the structural level, that's different.
Yeah.
Do we have to laud and lionize and memorialize and build a big statue of Charlie Kirk and put him on the $1 coin? Fuck no. Of course we don't. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But in your everyday interactions with people who you don't know, assuming the best, we walk around assuming the worst. And I understand, like, it's very difficult for me to say that to anyone else who doesn't come from the position of privilege that I do. Like, I can walk around and assume the best because I'm largely safe in situations. True. But I do feel like we spend a lot of time, often rightfully so, just assuming the worst outcomes. And it goes back to this kind of culture of fear that's rightfully instilled. But I would love if we did feel comfortable saying, like, good morning. What's happening?
I do it. People
How
think
are you
I'm weird.
doing?
Really?
I'm a Southerner that way.
Yeah.
And I'm also just very open. And I think that's part of the reason why I get the answers I get, because I really want to engage with people. I think Jack and Reecie, I think the difference in what I do and others are doing, and this is not a critique of other folks, I think what's different is that I'm not trying to embarrass people.
Right.
I'm not going and saying, oh, look how dumb the MAGA folks are, or look how smart these people are, or how stupid. I'm just, what's on your mind? How do you feel about this particular issue?
Yeah.
Some say, well, you're not going to agree with me. I'm like, that's not the point.
Right.
The point is, or when I see in the comments, I'm sure you guys get this, well, that's not the answer Don Lemon wanted. Yeah. Yes, that's the answer I wanted, right? Even if it is pro-MAGA or pro-Trump, I want that answer so that we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, well, I mean, to that point, I agree, because what I try to get people to understand is that it's not just that people are so dumb, it's that there is tens of hundreds of millions and maybe even billions of dollars invested in programming people to be disillusioned, to feel grievance and riled up, often by people who are hypocrites on the topic. Because I saw a commentator, Kavian, and I forget his last name, but he pointed out that Charlie Kirk's wife is the opposite of what he espoused women should be. She has 3 degrees, she has a PhD, she's a businesswoman.
And now she's a CEO.
In her 30s. Yeah. And so, there was data that showed that people who were Trump supporters, men in particular, the top thing that they ranked was having kids. And women, it ranked much lower. And so a lot of what we're seeing, and this isn't just a white male thing, this is even with black people, and it's the way that we've been targeted with, to be disillusioned and with dissuasion campaigns. The reason why a lot of people feel you see common themes is because there's an investment behind that. And then to your point about messaging, Democrats are trying to fight this organically. They think, we're gonna, have a couple of people say messages and that'll be enough. Whereas you see the right has really invested in the infrastructure. Charlie Kirk wasn't just a personality. He had a massive apparatus behind him.
He was a media mogul, yeah.
Yes, he was a mogul. And even at his memorial service, they have voter registration, they have TPUSA branding. Democrats have not caught up. And in this moment, you have the people of conscience, the billionaires of conscience, I guess George Clooney or whoever, they're quiet. They're moving like Cuomo, and they're like, I'm tapping out, as opposed to really going all in the way that Republicans are going all in on this moment.
Why do you think Democrats started to take over host and ask a question? But why do you think that is? I know, like, my host is coming out of me. Why do you think that is? Like, why are we a little embarrassed of the really, like, ham it up and build the infrastructure and be unapologetic and getting out there and just being like, we're going to make so much overtly political and we don't care?
Because Democrats, like Republicans, are obsessed with white approval. And they, in their mind, think the calculus. We saw Hillary's campaign, and to be fair, we saw Kamala Harris's campaign was about winning over the white woman voter. The white woman suburban voter that was supposed to be are the never Trumpers. And they still
very
largely
poll focused.
Yes,
very poll focused.
Yes, largely the party. Now you have the stars and you have the people who understand that that's not the formula, but largely the party and the money behind the party is still focused on how do we pivot or how do we center that white working class voter. And that's why we're going to always still be behind, because we can't out MAGA on the left.
I also think you're right about that with the approval part, but also Democrats allow their critics to define them.
We don't. We're never on offense.
It's like, I don't know why Democrats do that, but your critics are always going to be your critics. They're never going to approve of anything that you're doing.
And this is something that I felt like on a deep level in the wake of the Kirk shooting, is I feel like we are always waiting to make sure that everyone's on board. We're kind of looking around, is it okay? And then maybe I'll start to say the thing that's a bit uncomfortable. And after watching the end of Biden 2024 and the disaster that was, watching the huge swing, and rightfully so, of course, public opinion on the genocide that's happening in Gaza, I don't know how a Democrat couldn't see the past year, 2 years, and say, like, I don't want to wait until we have 65, 70% approval on an issue. I'd rather be early and get a bit of shit than be late and not have done enough. And I feel like our view in 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, whatever it is, on our reaction to Charlie Kirk is either like, why did we allow them to do this?
Exactly.
Why did we go along with this effort? Why were we apologizing? That's what I said on my show. It's like, you don't have to apologize. You don't. Don, I don't know if you own a gun. I was like, you don't own a gun. I'm sure every political action you've taken in your life has been to make sure we're lowering the climate, or lowering the rhetoric. We're making sure you're having conversations every day when you want people to come together. You're not encouraging political violence. You're not advocating for the fucking NRA. Why are we apologizing? Why are we allowing this fight to be dictated on their terms? I didn't understand, and I thought it was a huge failure for us to go, well, we got to respect the dead. We have to be respectful. And it's like, no.
I'm going to go over and give you a hug. It might make you uncomfortable, because I agree with what you're saying.
They're not being respectful. They're exploiting right away. And so we don't need to overtly exploit. We just have to play at the same level. I don't know why we have to wait until everything is perfect and right, and all, every T is crossed and every I is dotted before we say what we know we want to say.
There's never everything is perfect, T crossed, I dotted. There's never that moment.
Never a perfect
and by the time
moment.
you think that moment comes, it's
and
out of the headlines.
There's never that moment in life either.
It's the same thing when we do, we talk about gun violence. Well, right now it's time to be respectful. We shouldn't be talking about this issue. And then it fades from the headlines, and we never really talk about it. So I think that's a very important thing, what you're saying. And that's why I thought it was important just to, when they were in the beginning, it goes without saying, well, it shouldn't go without saying, I take that back. Of course, no one is condoning political violence at all. It was awful.
All the time.
We qualify everything, but it's important if you are playing back someone's own words,
Right. Why are you getting fired?
Why are you getting fired? And why are Democrats so concerned and worried about that? And I watch, from the little time that I do in the soundbites, I watch legacy media, and everyone is just way too careful and weighing every word.
And it's like, what are you worried about?
What the hell is going on?
People aren't going to remember anything you said 24 hours later.
Yeah.
And it's like the qualifying point, I think, is one that's so important. It's like,
can you hold? I got to get to a break.
Oh, please.
Let me just say this, because someone is in the comments, and that we're talking about fostering dialogue and conversation, and someone is saying, Maverick 72226 says, Don, get over yourself, Miss Thing. We don't need to be neutral. We don't need to be neutral to demons. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I'm neutral. I'm not giving false equivalence. What I'm saying is I let people say their piece, and then we have a conversation about it. And many times I will most times I will inject some facts into the situation to say, well, what you're saying is actually not true. But my motivation is not to just embarrass people, right? It's so that we could start a conversation. You can hear them, I can whatever. But if you're lying, I'm going to tell you you're lying. If you're misinformed, I'm going to tell you you're misinformed. So that's the whole point. But anyway, listen, we're going to talk about that, and also the huge censorship fail from the Trump administration, from the Stations Group, from MAGA as it relates to Jimmy Kimmel. I think they made Jimmy Kimmel way more famous, and Jimmy's realizing...
You got a little vacation, too.
Yeah, maybe I don't need this linear television thing if you look at all the money that I can make in streaming. So, blessing in disguise, Jimmy Kimmel. We're going to talk about that and more after word from our sponsors.
Support comes from Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, the favorite word is no. No contracts, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. My team switched because we were tired of that sky high, those bills for the same service that everyone else offers. Mint Mobile gives you premium wireless for just $15 a month. Same high-speed data, unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. And get this. You can keep your current phone, your current number, and all of your contacts. My team's tried it. They tried it, and the quality is crystal clear. We were shocked that it wasn't any different from the big carriers, except for the bill. So, ready to say yes to saying no? Go to mintmobile.com/DonLemon and make the switch. Plans start at $15 a month when you pay upfront for 3 months. Thanks to Mint Mobile. Support for this episode comes from Betterhelp. Now, we've all vented to the group chat, or we've leaned on friends and family for advice. But sometimes, you need more than just a sympathetic ear. You need someone who knows how to help. And that's where therapy comes in. I've used therapy to get through some of the hardest times in my life. Talking to a professional helped me sort through emotions I didn't even realize I was carrying. It was a game changer for me. BetterHelp makes it easy. You get matched with a licensed therapist online, and if it's not the right fit, then you can switch at any time. There's no awkward goodbyes, no waiting lists. It's fully online. It fits into your schedule, and you can start today. Our listeners get 10% off of their first month at betterhelp.com/DonLemon. That's betterhelp.com/DonLemon.
All right, the breaking news, Jimmy Kimmel. The ratings are in for the first day. And by the way, this is just on the linear here we'll share. 6.2 million, 6.26, actually 6.25 million viewers on ABC. That was 4 times Jimmy Kimmel's average. And that's despite the show not even being available in a quarter of all American homes. And the reason for that, of course, is those local TV station owners, Nexstar and Sinclair. They're refusing to air Kimmel's program. So even without a quarter of households, they managed to do that incredible surge. Last night's surge show was Kimmel's most watched show. In fact, since March 12th, 2015. So you got to go back more than 10 years. President Obama at the time was Jimmy Kimmel's guest that night.
First date to drink.
So that was the breaking news that happened. No, you're good. That was the breaking news. That was my friend Aaron Burnett over on the CNN last night. Almost 7 million on TV ratings. I think it's like 4 times, or I forget, a number of times more than the normal Jimmy Kimmel audience or ratings. And that's just on linear. On streaming, almost 30 million.
Holy moly.
People watch. I think it's like 26 or something million people watch, and more. What does that say to you guys about this whole thing?
Says sucking MAGA. We're gonna watch it. We want to watch. Go to hell. That's what it says. I mean.
Oh, by the way, and he wasn't even on in a quarter of all households.
because they turned it.
Sorry, Reecie.
Well, listen. If there's all this talk about this is a business decision. This is a business decision. Well.
Oh my God.
People are gonna take their eyeballs to the people that they want to see. You can't gatekeep a star like Jimmy Kimmel. You can't gatekeep the truth. And that's why, Don Lemon, you just hit 900,000 subscribers. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Last time we were on, we were at 800. Do you remember? And that was just like 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
it's kind of crazy.
Yes.
Or 850. Yeah, that was like 2 weeks ago.
There's a little competition going on, at least for friendly, Don.
Okay, I only got 22,000, so I got to catch up.
But honestly, not to cut you, I don't view us as competition.
Oh, no, not
I think
at all.
that we're
Rising
all
tide.
in this together.
Right,
We bring in more people to watch.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think that what they're going to find is that it's a lot harder to gatekeep. It's a lot harder to censor.
Yeah.
And when they try to go after people, they end up making them more legendary.
Yeah.
And so good on Jimmy Kimmel. You know, he came back. And the people who make the business decision to bet on whatever propaganda or whatever, they're going to be on the losing end of this censorship argument.
Yeah. I want you guys to run when you can. Jimmy Kimmel from last night talking about the ratings and really the response from people. It's really funny moments. Cut me off if it just runs because I know we have this long delay here. But I want people to hear Jimmy Kimmel. This is a second night. The first night, huge standing ovation. Mm-hmm. People loved it. But last night, really, I think is important. I think it's going to be important to gauge those second night ratings. They're not going to be as high, but I think it's going to help this show.
You know, a lot of people watched our show last night. I got so many texts from so many people. It made me realize how many of my friends are never watching the show at any other time. Tomorrow, I'll hear from no one. I did hear from one very special friend. Moments after we taped our show last night, the Mad Red Hatter wrote, "I can't believe ABC Fake News gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back." You can't believe they gave me my job back. I can't believe we gave you your job back. Or even. And there's more. The White House was told by ABC that his show was canceled. No, they weren't. Something happened between then and now because his audience is gone and his talent was never there. That I can't argue with. Shut the f*** up. The freedom of speech is only for me. Do not interrupt the president. Why would they want someone back who does so poorly, who's not funny, and who puts the network in jeopardy by playing 99% positive Democrat garbage? Who puts the network in jeopardy? You hear that? There's the threat again. This time straight from FCC Biscuit's mouth. He goes, he says, "I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative. A true bunch of losers." Only Donald Trump would try to prove he wasn't threatening ABC by threatening ABC. And you almost have to feel sorry for the people who work for him, who try to clean up the messes. They've been bending over backwards.
When I did it that night. So I like said on my show, I was like, okay, I'm going to show you like screen grabs of it and read what he's saying.
Right.
But just like follow along. We're going to get through all the jokes. It's like I will not have my show shut down by the Disney lawyers.
Okay, and we're back. So here's the thing. I thought a couple things. Jimmy Kimmel, he's really quick because it wasn't a heckle. He's like, "We love you, Jimmy." And then quickly, Jimmy says, "Shut the F up. Free speech is only for me." That was great.
Right.
And then he pointed out the hypocrisy and how they helped out the ratings. But then also how Donald Trump is threatening I guess the stations groups and threatening Jimmy Kimmel and all this without saying that he's threatening. He's tweeting out, "Well, I got $16 million last time. What can I get this time?" What does this mean? Number one, for Jimmy Kimmel and also for free speech in this country and the FCC and all of that, the business and media, etc.
Yeah.
I think the big takeaway for me is that through most of the threats from the beginning of the Trump administration and even before when he was dishing out all these lawsuits, it was always kind of like pre-capitulation. ABC didn't have to give him $16 million after it went to court in a judgment. They just were like, we don't really want this fight. It's what Columbia did. It's what you've seen other universities do. It's the pre-capitulation. They're like, we just don't want to engage. They're not losing to Trump. They're just saying we don't want the fight. This is the first time that in the face of not a real threat, because Brendan Carr, he did say easy way or hard way. The implication is clearly there. But there's no outcome in which something now bad happens. There's no clearly dictated outcome. It's not like, okay, Disney made this decision. Now, seconds later, X happens. Right? This was them just capitulating, and now they've changed course. This is the first time that anyone has said, any big institution, whether it be a law firm, a college, a network, a giant conglomerate, said, no, we're not going to capitulate. If you actually want to shut Jimmy Kimmel down, you're going to have, let's do it the hard way. And I don't know if Donald Trump has the stomach for that right now, because he's losing every other court battle he's got going on. But I think this really does, one, set the tone for Democrats who, as we're seeing in these midterms, saying, we're done with the corporate interests. We're not taking your corporate PAC money. We don't have to engage. This can be a grassroots effort. But it also shows this is the way in which we fight back. Like the real grassroots mobilization does work. And so I think any other enemy of Trump's needs to take this as an opportunity, because if you're Harvard or if you're my alma mater in Columbia, which is completely bent the knee, what a missed PR opportunity. You could have said, Donald Trump wants to go after all the important research that we're doing. This is a prideful American institution that's responsible for X, scientific achievement, Y, literary break. It doesn't matter. Like, what a missed PR opportunity that I think Jimmy Kimmel has shown people, when you fight and you win, you get 30 million views. And I think that sets the tone.
But can I say, it wasn't that the conglomerate fought back. It was the people. Made them pay. When people were canceling their subscriptions, when they lost market value. To date, before I would say Jimmy Kimmel's situation, we saw a comfort with capitalism existing without democracy. All the capitulation. You had all the tech gurus and all the companies going in there, and they're giving Donald Trump 10%, well, the federal government 10% of NVIDIA or whatever. We saw that they were like, well, as long as we're still getting paid, who cares about rights? Who cares about democracy? And now what they're recognizing is that 75 million people voted for something else. Just 2 million, maybe 3 million shy of who voted for what Trump is doing. That's a lot of damn people who can take their money and say, I'm going to make a different choice with my money. And so we have to realize the power of our purse and the power of that we hold still outside of the traditional channels, outside of violence that more people are doing. And outside
of me, I didn't. You alluded. I was like, well, what did I do? I host the show.
We still, money talks, bullshit walks. And at the end of the day, they're recognizing that, okay, that's 75 million people, but they got a lot of coin, and they're going to make us make a different decision.
Do you think that, I believe that breakthroughs come, sometimes there are big moments, but very rarely do they come in one big moment where everybody changes. It's all the little incremental things. So maybe Jimmy Kimmel is one. And do you think, I think it made people realize, whether it's big or small, that I too can make a difference. I can cancel my subscription. I can say that I'm not going to buy the product from this particular company. And also I do think that it gave the resistance, so to speak, if you're a Democrat, if you're anti-Trump, if you're pro-democracy and pro-constitution, it gave people an indication, hey, maybe we can fight back. Am I wrong?
This is our country too. Like we didn't just say MAGA owns it now.
Because our dollars are your dollars. That's their dollars. You're giving them your money. Right. And you don't have to. You know what I mean? There are other places that you can get information from.
Absolutely.
We're on one right now. But I also think that this was an important reading of, Trump does one thing really well, which is pick good enemies. Like going after law firms, going after James Comey. I don't really think people are in love with big colleges, especially like Ivy League colleges.
That's true.
That's a good enemy to pick.
Black women.
Jimmy Kimmel I wouldn't say is the most popular person in America, but if you polled just like average, they're like, oh, talk show host.
Or they're like, I don't really know.
The Oscars, they're like, oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
And so when you're going after him, you're like, wait, like what? Like what is the president of the United States doing?
Yeah.
And I think that was the big slip up here, is that if he had continued to go after, you know, the law firms, the colleges, the former members of his first administration, he'd be having a little bit more success, because it's hard to communicate the importance of that. Of course, we don't think that James Comey should be indicted for false charges that are, you know, trumped up and don't really hold anything. But it's difficult to communicate that to folks who are like, who is James Comey and why do I need to care about this? Oh, some person who was in the government is getting indicted. Oh, that makes sense. That tracks.
Yeah.
Like, but people aren't going to really read that. And I think that was the big mistake here, is that this was an opportunity to mobilize and get people to kind of wake up to something if they haven't been paying attention, and should have been.
Right.
This didn't just start happening with Jimmy Kimmel.
No.
This was happening with my classmates at Columbia, who, you know, you write an op-ed, you organize a protest calling it a genocide, they disappear you and throw you in jail. It should have started there. Some people weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
And a lot of Democrats afraid to speak up because they didn't want to advocate for people who were speaking out on behalf of Palestinian human rights.
Yeah.
Now that it's Jimmy Kimmel, of course, they feel a little bit more comfortable, but this is a larger wake-up call, and I think that was his big mistake.
We're going to talk more about the James Comey, because you mentioned the indictment that's happening with James Comey and what's behind that. But first, we're going to get a word in from our sponsors.
Support for the Don Lemon Show comes from Ollie. Now listen, if my dogs could talk, they would beg for Ollie. The tail wags, the excited little hops at mealtime. That's the Ollie effect. Ollie delivers fresh, human-grade dog food made in U.S. kitchens. No fillers, no preservatives, just real, healthy ingredients. And the difference shows. More energy, shinier coats, even better digestion. Now, I filled out all you have to do is fill out this 30-second test or quiz that they give you. It's created. It helps to create a meal plan just for your pups. They have beef and sweet potatoes and just honestly all great, 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 great food, okay? So go to ollie.com/lemon and use lemon for 60% off of your first box. They even offer a happiness guarantee. If you're not thrilled, they're going to refund your first box. That's OLLIE.com/lemon, OLLIE.com/lemon. Support comes from Lean. We've all seen those crash diets. You lose 10 pounds, you gain back 15, if not more. It's called weight cycling, and half of Americans do it. Doctors say it can lead to serious health problems like diabetes, liver issues, even heart disease. Now, I didn't realize how much damage it causes until I learned about Lean. It's not a fad or a shot. It is non-prescription supplemented, a supplement created by doctors who support healthy and steady weight loss. So Lean works in 3 ways. It helps you control appetite, it maintains healthy blood sugar, and it burns fat by converting it into energy, so you actually keep the weight off. If you want to lose weight at a healthy pace and stop the cycle, go to takelean.com and use code LEMON for 20% off. That's takelean.com and use the code LEMON for 20% off. Thank you to all of our sponsors.
Good morning. Hey, Tony, good morning. President Trump celebrated firing James Comey during his first term, but now the former FBI director who opened the investigation into Russia's meddling in the 2016 election could be Trump's first high-profile rival to be prosecuted since he returned to the White House. Multiple sources familiar with the matter tell CBS News prosecutors are considering bringing a case against James Comey before a grand jury.
He was a terrible person, did terrible things.
The decision rests with Lindsay Halligan, a former Trump White House aide and confidant who was named the interim top prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia Monday, after Trump said he ousted the prior prosecutor who did not press forward with the case against Comey. On Saturday, Trump posted suggesting Comey and 2 other critics of the president, New York Attorney General Letitia James and California Senator Adam Schiff, should be criminally charged, saying that justice must be served now.
We have to act fast. If they're not guilty, that's fine. If they are guilty or if they should be charged, they should be charged. And we have to do it now.
Tom Dupree is a former Department of Justice official.
What is different about this case is that there clearly has been significant presidential pressure brought to bear. And you don't want a universe in which that pressure distorts the prosecutorial judgment.
Trump allies have accused Comey of lying to Congress 5 years ago this month when his testimony conflicted with other witnesses.
I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
Multiple reports say charges against Comey could include a count of perjury, an allegation he's denied. And the key here is the statute of limitations to bring charges related to that testimony runs out Tuesday. CBS News reached out to the U.S. attorney in Virginia and an attorney for Comey, and neither has responded. If Halligan proceeds with the charges, this would be the first case she ever prosecutes in her career, Vlad.
This is really, really frightening. Because who knows if he's going to be indicted. I wouldn't put anything past the Trump administration, so I'd say it is a very strong possibility.
Yeah.
And in the report, it said the difference between this time is that he's advocating more strongly to go after his political enemies. When he said, if they're guilty, then fine. If they're not guilty, then fine. It's like, what about the actual evidence? And why is this something that you have to do? By the way, James Comey helped you win.
Yeah. Hello.
You should be sending him flowers every single day of the week saying, thank you, James Comey. I would not be here if it were not for you.
And it's funny because it's the same thing, and he's going after Tish James as well.
Right.
Because he's like, oh, I got James Comey in there. He's lying to Congress. He's like, oh, we're going to throw Tish James in there because I'll just hate a black woman because I'm Donald Trump, but that's what I do.
Yeah.
But it's funny, Don, you just brought up the fact Comey helped you win. All that they've been saying, all they said during the 2024 campaign is like, oh, Tish James going after Trump only helped him. So shouldn't you be sending a thank you there as well? But what I think it is, after the Bondi tweet, in which he's like, Pam, which I don't, do you think that was like supposed to be a text, or do you think he meant to send that out when he was like, Pam, I need you to get on this, or because I think it might have been a text.
You think it was a text?
I think he's a little confused.
Yeah.
But for me, he wants Pam Bondi to get a little more engaged in going after his opponents. He knows he's got nothing on James Comey. He's got especially nothing on Letitia James.
Yeah.
This is just about making their life hell.
Yeah.
Like an indictment, what comes along with that is just about making their life hell. And I don't think that he actually thinks this goes anywhere, do you? Like, do you think he can actually get anything out of this besides, like, the cruelty is the point?
No, that's exactly what it is. You know, here's the thing. When he was coming after black women first, I said, you know, this is the opening salvo.
Yep.
His target will be white people eventually.
Yep.
And I said that about Lisa Jackson and, you know, all that stuff, and Tish James. And so he was always going to make his way, but what he wanted to do, to your point about picking perfect targets, is he wanted to kind of desensitize people to the idea that as president, I can abuse my power and I can go after political enemies or people who don't fall in line with my agenda. And so the rub, though, with this James Comey thing is that they have to return a grand jury indictment, which we have seen increasingly, at least in the D.C. district, where the grand jury is like, fuck out of here. Like, we're not returning these indictments. And so, but it's about cruelty. It's about humiliating the opponents, because you would think the man would have some shame in the fact that he's been convicted 34 times of a felony. He was indicted on 80 counts across multiple jurisdictions. And so I think he wants to try to make it seem like, you know, it was political here, but this is justice on this side.
Yeah, and especially when he needs a moment to rile up the base. I think this is just as much about, like, throwing red meat, distract. Oh, these are people that I know I can get you upset about. But, like, the threats are constant. Like, I remember back when it was Jasmine Crockett who said, like, oh, fuck Elon Musk, or something to that degree, and Pam Bondi's like, I think we're going to have to investigate her. Like, we're going to open, or it was maybe... it
was Robert Garcia who said something about Elon Musk too. They sent a threatening letter.
That they were going to go after both of them. And it's like, it's just as much about, like, we want to make you uncomfortable, we want to make you scared, we want to throw red meat to the base. But this does feel like a step above. It's just interesting to me that the weekend after he's saying, Pam, you're not delivering on these indictments, you're not delivering on really making them feel it, that he would go after just like such a baseless chase.
Well, because there's a statute of limitations on that particular testimony that expires on Tuesday, so next Tuesday or something like that. But I just think that what it is he's bored, right? He wants to deliver scalps to his base, and he wants to feel powerful. These people made him feel like he was small. They made him feel like he wasn't in control. And they made him feel like he was illegitimate. You know, Letitia James, she won the fraud case against him. His whole identity is around being a successful businessman, which we know is
bullshit.
Yeah, and then, James Comey in the investigation, it made him seem like his win was illegitimate, which it was as well.
And it's funny that you bring up like them making him feel small, illegitimate. Last night in the ranting and raving post that he made about Vice President Harris, he said after her interview with Rachel Maddow, a couple other TV hits, Trump's big qualm, what he was so mad about that he said, I demand an apology from her, the vice president was lying, was that Kamala said it was one of the closest elections in history. Like, that's what his feelings were tied up in.
Right.
She was rightfully shitting on all the promises that he's broken, all the criminality, all the failures of this administration. But what he was most upset about was her saying this was a close election.
Yeah.
Like, he's really, truly not over not winning the popular vote in 2016 and how close it was. I really don't think he'll ever get over a black woman shredding him on that debate stage. I don't think he will ever get over what Kamala did to him. Like, no matter what, I don't think that he can move on from that. Like, personally, he was so rattled. I'm really going to need her to say something about Epstein soon. The meltdown that would come from that would be delicious. But you're so right that he just can't get over feeling small. And that's why I thought it was so funny for all that Kamala has said recently, that he was mad about her analysis of how close the election was.
Yeah.
Isn't that so weird?
That's
his
weird.
point.
But it's weird. He doesn't like people criticizing him. That's why he's going after James Comey, because James Comey, remember, criticized him afterwards. I had the opportunity to interview James Comey in May of 2024, obviously before the indictments. He had a book coming out where he talked about all of these things. You can run it whenever, just cut me off. But, I asked him about his biggest fear. I'm never thinking that they would actually try to indict him. But,
What is your biggest fear if he wins come November?
That he will be smarter and more determined and surrounded by even worse people than the last time. And there were some bad people, but even those bad people want no part of it. So we're going another few inches closer to the bottom of the barrel.
The last time was a dress rehearsal, you believe?
I do think it's a dress rehearsal. I mean, believe your ears when Donald Trump tells you this, I'll be the retribution president. He's going to try to burn it all down. And I realize a lot of people think, it's entertaining. I'd like to see someone take on the elites. This isn't about that. This is about what are we as a country, and do we maintain a constitution and a rule of law? That's what this is about.
I think James Comey is right. James Comey is saying Donald Trump said he's going to be the retribution president, and that the next time around, James Comey said, I'm worried that he's going to surround himself with worse people.
Yeah.
And so now, my take during the election was, can you imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails?
Yeah.
And now we don't have to imagine it.
Right.
Here it is. Comey was right. I don't know if he ever thought that it would, come down to a result into a possible indictment, but he certainly voiced his concern about.
It's interesting. I did a video this morning about, it was a report that Pam Bondi said that Kash Patel was deliberately trying to sabotage her around the Epstein files.
Oh.
She said he's trying to destroy me.
Oh.
Like when it was who's going to get fired, who's in trouble, who screwed everything up the most. And what was reported is that Trump said to her, like, man up, like figure it out.
Yeah.
He hasn't fired anyone. I know we saw the Mike Waltz had a little reassignment.
Yeah.
So not technically.
Yeah.
But he hasn't fired anyone.
Yeah.
Loyalty really has become the most important thing to him. Like, and I said this morning, when was the last time he said he had the best people? Like, are we still doing that line? Are we still doing we have the best people?
Yeah.
He's not talking about that anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like a complete absence of care.
Yeah. And he needs loyalty and detachment from reality as well. He needs people to not just be loyal to him, but to be loyal to his view of the world, even though his view is completely delusional and detached from reality. I mean, look at the economic advisors he has. They're pushing his agenda on tariffs, which has been destructive internationally. His foreign policy agenda, every part of his agenda is based on his complete, irrational ideas. And people who are supposed to be there and be like, hey, that's not how that works, are going right along with it, like, yada, 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 yada. And that's really what is so damaging. Yeah.
It's all about the Benjamins.
Money.
It is money. Well, speaking, you mentioned the Vice President Kamala Harris and how he got upset because he said it was a close election. A lot of folks are, talking about her interviews. She was on Was she on The View? No, she was on
She was on
Morning America.
She did
was on
Maddow
The
as
View.
well.
She was on Rachel Maddow.
She did Joy Reid.
And she did, of course, she did our friend Joy Reid. But she talked about Mamdani. And who was it? It was Rachel who said, are you going to endorse him, right? And she said, I support the candidate, but folks had a lot of things. Play it. We'll have some tea and some coffee, but play what she said about supporting Mamdani and whether the party would and whether she would. Here it is. 7-second delay.
Folks who you met with in this way include some of the people who you see very frequently now on MSNBC. Jasmine Crockett, Angela Also Brooks, Maxwell Frost, Robert Garcia Moore. Arguably the fastest rising star right now in Democratic politics is Zohran Mamdani, who is going to be elected mayor of New York City, and probably in a landslide if the polls are anything to go by. Lots of mainline Democrats have been very shy about his candidacy. They seem somewhat flummoxed by his success. As a sort of talent spotter in the Democratic Party, what do you think of him and his candidacy? And what do you think of mainline Democratic shyness and agitation about the prospect that he's going to win?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported. Do
you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race, sure. But let me just say this. He's not the only star. I know that, he's in New York, and I know New Yorkers think they're the center of the world, and here we are in New York having this interview.
It is the biggest city in the country.
And I love New York, as the saying goes. I really do. But, there are people like Barbara Drummond in Mobile, Alabama, Helena Moreno in New Orleans. They're all running for mayor, too, and they are stars. So I hope that we don't so over-index on New York City that we lose sight of the stars throughout our country who are right now running for mayor and many other offices, governor, and so on. So that's where I am. We got a big tent, and we got a lot of stars.
2020.
I know you feel a certain kind of way about that. What'd you think?
So I do feel a certain type of way. I will point out first and foremost that one of the candidates that the vice president mentioned, I believe it was the candidate in Alabama.
Yeah, Barbara Drummond.
Lost their race, I think it was. It was one of the two candidates lost their race by 1, 2, 3 points, something small. And so bang on with the point that we need to be paying attention to other rising stars of the Democratic Party. Completely agree that shout out was important. Wish we would have given a little bit of focus. We might have another Democratic mayor. But after that, there was a report from Politico that the vice president called Zohran, spoke on the phone, expressed her support for his bid for mayor while acknowledging that they don't agree on everything. I wish there had been a little bit more support. I think saying I'm going to support the Democratic nominee no matter what, that's what we've always been told to do with every Democratic nominee. I just wish the vice president, especially if she's going to call Zohran after, and there's a reason that report is coming out. There's a reason. Clearly, she wants people to know that she is supportive of his candidacy. So maybe she just wanted to get to talking about those other mayors. I don't think that she was being completely dismissive of him. But considering what we've seen from Leader Jeffries, from Chuck Schumer, I think that would have been a great moment when you're coming back on the political stage to say, this is the person everyone's talking about right now. I think we all see this. I think we all see Zohran as someone that Democrats should be modeling, the way that they're campaigning on affordability, really the way that they're bringing the same type of joy to politics that the vice president did at the beginning of her campaign. It was a very joyful campaign. The beginning mostly, it began to temper off a little bit towards the end. You're running against Donald Trump. It's hard to stay excited and having a great time the whole time. But I think that would have been really important. I'm glad we saw her express a little bit more support after. But I wish that would have been a more full-throated endorsement. I might be wrong on that, but wish I'd seen that.
Well, it wasn't like he was doing cartwheels for her candidacy in 2024 either.
That's true.
He was kind of like, he wasn't really gung-ho Kamala.
Yeah.
And so, he got what he got. He should be happy to get that much. But I also think
she did support him. I can't say she did support him.
And she called him the Democrat in the race, which is a good point, considering, well, I don't know, Cuomo is running as independent, so I don't know, but at the end of the day, she does support him. But I think it's much ado about nothing. I don't think that we have a Democratic Party anymore with the power brokers determining who's going to be the winner. You know, so much has been made about Leader Jeffries' non-endorsement, but I pointed out, hey, he endorsed David Trone over Senator Angela Alsobrooks, and she mollywopped him. So I don't think that these endorsements really move the needle as much as what the candidate is doing. It's an interesting story to keep kind of going back and forth on and creating this like intra-party, you know, battle, but I don't think the voters really care about these endorsements.
So here's what I'll say. That's why I like coming to Washington, because the streets are talking. They have been a bit about, and this isn't to say how I feel about Zohran Mamdani. The word on the street is that Zohran Mamdani is demanding support and endorsements from people he did not support, nor did he endorse. As a matter of fact, he spoke out against them and said to withhold your vote. And so I think that political leaders, especially the national political leaders, I'm speaking for myself, but I think national political leaders who are being folks are demanding to support Zohran Mamdani, who's just one person in the race for mayor in New York City. They feel like, wait a minute, you didn't support Kamala Harris. You didn't support Joe Biden. As a matter of fact, you spoke out against and said withhold your vote, and you were part of sort of this no commitment part of the Democratic Party, if you were part of the Democratic Party or whatever it is you thought to be. And now you're out here demanding, your people are demanding that all of a sudden you throw an endorsement in, and throw an endorsement in before people usually endorse, which is in October, closer to the election. You're demanding, do it now, do it now, do it now. And they're like, why should I do that? You didn't do it for me. You didn't do it for the Democrat. At least Kamala Harris, as you said, I support the Democrat. You didn't even say you supported the Democrat, and now you're like, why aren't you supporting me? Oh my gosh, and your people are like, why aren't you supporting him? And so I think that's maybe ideology that's kicking in, and you're being a bit biased. So why would you expect something from other people that you did not deliver or do yourself?
I think I certainly have a little Zohran bias. When we talked about on election day, when you were asking me, like, where do you think it's going to be?
And I think that's a very legit, real argument.
I do think it is, but I would just say the role that the vice president has in the party right now, and her influence in shaping where we go, is certainly a lot different than the influence that Zohran had in 2024. I don't know how many people's minds are being shaped, you know, in his assembly district versus the power that Kamala Harris has to dictate the terms of how we're going to be talking about Democratic politics. And really, for me, it's not about like affirming his candidacy as much as it's like a commitment to speaking on the issues of affordability, talking about a housing crisis, making sure that someone who is engaged young people like no other, after coming out of a campaign.
Like no other?
Zohran?
Like you said, like no other. That's a strong.
Well, I guess maybe in recent history.
Okay.
But we just can't. We did just come out of an election in which my generation
did shift towards Trump.
And I think a lot of them want to walk that back. But I just wanted to see like a full-throated endorsement of like, these are the issues that we need to be talking about. I do think she did that in highlighting those other candidates, and it speaks to the truth of her argument that that candidate didn't pull through because maybe Democrats weren't giving enough attention across the country. Nothing wrong with focusing on New York a little bit. I think we all love to focus on New York.
Let me just read this. This is I'm not talking out of my ass here, right? I'm
Please,
saying,
go ahead.
That's the sentiment that we're hearing here on the streets. It's also, I mean, it's not the first time that people have discussed it. This is from September 12th of this year. This is on the Hill. It's an opinion. It says, supporters of Zohran Mamdani continue to pressure Democratic leaders, insisting that their candidate is entitled to the endorsement of the party leadership. But their sudden commitment to vote blue, no matter who, rewrites Mamdani's own recent history. They would like to paper over his efforts to actively undermine Democrats in America's most consequential moment. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez proclaimed last week that if an individual doesn't want to support the party's nominee now, it complicates their ability to ask voters to support any nominee later. Precisely. This is the very same logic that disqualifies Mamdani from seeking these endorsements today. Mamdani didn't just fail to support Democratic presidential nominees, Vice President Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden, in last year's existentially urgent campaign. He spoke out and organized against them. In March of 2024, Mamdani urged voters to withhold their vote from Biden. Last summer, as the world watched the Democrats make history by nominating the first black woman on a major party ticket, Mamdani proudly platformed the Uncommitted movement, which protested her convention. Why should she support him, and why should Democratic leaders support him when he did not offer them the same favor or luxury.
I do think it's important to note that in March of 2024, what he was talking about is let's make your voice heard in a primary that we're unhappy that Joe Biden is our nominee. And I think we much rather would have had Kamala Harris be our nominee back in March. I feel like the earlier we could have had Kamala Harris be our nominee, maybe things could have looked a little different. And I think, again, you know, when you had a Democratic convention that we're looking back on when the demand of the uncommitted movement was, you know, we've had all of these interest groups speak. Can we have one Palestinian American speak? I think advocacy for that, I think was a totally a fair issue to raise. Of course, a little bit more support would have been great in 2024. We certainly needed it. Its impact in New York, I think, looked a little different than its impact in Arizona or Michigan or Georgia. But I do think it comes back to the fact that my feelings and my feelings about the Vice President, Leader Jeffrey Schumer, is that they are in a position not only to shape where the future of the party is going, but to shape the larger sentiment towards how everyone feels about the Democratic Party, which is that it's weak, it's ineffective, it's divided, it can't come together on anything.
Jack, don't you think it would be damaging to Zohran Mamdani if this whole idea of Democrats need to be more transparent. They need to say how they feel. They need to tell the truth. If the Democrats actually came out, a national figure, and said, look, this is why I'm hesitant to support Zohran Mamdani, because he did not support the Democrat. Don't you think that maybe they're saying, I don't want to damage the guy in a local election or a city election in New York City, so I'm not going to speak my truth about him. I'm just going to wait and I'm going to hold my powder. Don't you think they may be concerned that they might actually end up damaging him, and that you guys who are Mamdani stands, I'm not saying I'm against the guy, I think he's going to be mayor of New York City, and that is the absolute truth. I don't think that Cuomo is even really running the campaign. I think Eric Adams is, doesn't stand a chance. But the actual truth of the matter, if you're really being honest about it, don't you think they have a point? And if they came out, if Kamala Harris actually came out and said, the guy didn't support me, why are you pressuring me about it? Don't you think that would be damaging to him?
Well, it might be damaging, but again, my only qualm kind of there is that she does support him, right? She had shared in Politico that she does support him. But I just think that there's a bit of a difference between his stance in terms of support for the uncommitted movement, where we want Democrats to have their frustrations heard at a time in which I think we all should come around to the idea, and it's worked for Zohran right now, the primaries are a good thing. Primaries are great. He fought in a very contested primary, and it made him stronger. If the vice president, who I think would have won a Democratic primary in 2024, had that opportunity, it might have introduced her to more people, had more people heard her ideas. I think, you look at the last time we had the most competitive, real Democratic primary was 2008. And Barack Obama, I think, probably came out stronger than ever before.
But don't you, hold on 1 second, I'm sorry. Don't you think...
I've answered too many questions.
No.
Come on, let me get in on it.
So if I'm Eric Adams, and they said that, and maybe they just don't want to give Eric Adams or Cuomo a talking point, and they said, he didn't support me. Then Eric Adams says, well, this is the whole idea about consistency. How can we trust someone who waffles on this? Because he didn't support the nominee, and now he's demanding that, and he wants the same thing from them. What does that say about him? Then Cuomo does the exact same thing. Again, do you get my point?
Yeah, I just don't think that that's the reason that they're withholding their support. Would you disagree?
I think that they feel that they're being pressured at this moment to support someone who didn't support them, and support them earlier than when national candidates usually endorse other candidates, if they even weigh in on local elections. I think Barack Obama did it, but he did it late in October. I think there was one other person who did it, but usually they don't endorse local folks. And so a mayor's race, to be quite honest, a mayor's race in a city, I know New York's the biggest city, but people don't usually go and support mayors, national figures. It's just not a thing.
I think the real reason why it's more of an issue is because you do have Cuomo and Adams in the race. You don't typically have three Democrats.
That's true. And Donald Trump is weighing in and speaking, and Eric Adams and
two crooks.
His relationship with Trump and being charges dropped and all that shit.
Yeah. So, but on the other hand, I kind of feel like stand on business. Zohran, you weren't super gung-ho, super vote no matter who. And so it's not very realistic to expect these people that you didn't put your full throat of support behind to come and really back you like that, particularly because, like we said, they don't normally, people don't normally weigh in on mayoral candidates like that. So I feel like he would actually be stronger if he was just like, I respect that I don't have everybody's support, but I have the support of the New Yorkers. Right. And move on. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because, AOC, she won her primary, even though everybody in Congress backed her opponent. Same with Congressman Bowman. Now he's not there anymore. But I think there's something about being a little bit of an underdog, a little bit of outside the establishment that tends to work for candidates like him. So I think it's a little strange that there's so much obsession around who's endorsing him and then the tenor of the endorsement when he doesn't really need it.
Do you think it's more because we're having this kind of like crisis with the popularity or the unpopularity of the Democratic Party right now? Like he's the best opportunity to come together around something? Can I tell you
what it is? I think it's Gaza. Mm-hmm. I think that's the thing. I think people view non-support of Mamdani as a support for Israel and AIPAC. Mm-hmm. I think that's really the issue. And I think that especially people of color, minorities, they look at it, they sort of relate the civil rights movement in America to people of color, to what's happening in Gaza, right? Mm-hmm. Oppression, like together, even though, it's not exactly the same thing. So I think really the touchstone is, I think it's Gaza. That's what I really think.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think this is a moment where people want to see the anti-establishment, anti-corporate type of candidate. And I think that's why I'm kind of like eager if the vice president is going to be getting back on the political stage for her to embrace that.
Full-throated endorsement.
Well, it doesn't even necessarily need to be of him, but I'd like to see her, because she talked about in that Maddow interview, and it really stood out to me when she said those first 2 weeks I didn't have polling. And I was speaking from the heart. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but that was my favorite 2 weeks of the campaign.
I agree.
She said I didn't have polling?
She said I didn't have polling, and I was speaking from the heart. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was the best 2 weeks of the campaign. Well, what's kind of been like your takeaway from the media tour of what she's, the reintroduction so far?
Yeah, I think she's trying to keep her options open for 2028, and I think that there's a little bit of a contradiction between this like super candid book and then kind of the politician's answers that she's giving on there. I think she would have done herself a great service to come out with that same level of candor in her interviews and more, just more authentic. This is how I feel. That's the disconnect that I think is still there, that people felt in 2024 that didn't serve her well. And so it's obvious that she's keeping her options open. I got no problem with that. But I would like to have seen a little bit of like, okay, let me edit my presentation to show that I get it. I need to be more relaxed. I need to be more transparent about how I feel instead of pivoting and,
Yeah.
So I think that the book, obviously, it's getting rave reviews for its candor, but her interviews aren't really giving that for me.
Yeah, and I think if there's going to be the reemergence of the vice president on the political scene, I don't think anyone really can blame her that much. And again, I wish she had been more herself on the campaign trail. Mm-hmm. But you got 107 days and you're trying to win this thing and figure out in real time. I just think now, like you said, I just want to see the real version of you.
Yeah.
If there's nothing at stake in this moment, and there's no, this is a moment defined by when you're running against Trump, this is a moment defined by inflation in the economy. Her background as a prosecutor wasn't exactly serving that moment, so she had to lean on other things.
Yeah.
But I just want to see you. Be you right now.
I think that there are, about the election, maybe you have to realize, read the room, there are bigger things that are at stake, whether if someone supported you or not. So maybe perhaps, they should be supporting. I'm not saying they should or shouldn't. I'm just telling you what the response has been for the lack of endorsements so far. But as far as what Kamala Harris is doing, with like the book, and I'm like, the tea is hot, keeps spilling it. I want to see it. And you know what? Hey, let her have her say. It's her story.
She deserves.
It's hers to tell. So let her do it.
She got. Oh God!
Yeah.
What they did to her, I'm not even going to start.
That energy in her interviews.
Yes, exactly.
I want you to lean in. I want you to, if you're like, I'm not going to be in the system. The system is broken. then don't still come across like a politician in the system.
I think she'll get there.
I hope so. I want to see that.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm like, I'm cheering. This isn't coming from a place where I'm cheering for you to be a little different.
Yeah.
Because the theme of the book to me was the Biden aides held me down.
Yeah.
True.
Mm-hmm.
They deliberately tried to undermine her.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And if you're saying that's the case, just run free.
That's it.
Just have fun.
Yeah. I agree.
Be you.
Boy, we talked about a lot, didn't we?
We did. We talked about a lot.
That was good. Oh, we got Jack. Now you understand why folks are saying, I don't know. Did you know that before, though, about the...
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, of course you did. You're a very well-read person.
You know I love my guy, though.
Yeah, I understand. And look, the weird thing is, like, when I tried to explain the appeal of Mamdani, people are like, you support Mamdani. I'm like, I don't really support anybody, and I support truth. Do I think he'd be a good mayor? Yeah, I think he'd be a good mayor. Yeah. But that's very similar to... let's talk about Pete Hegseth before I was, because I was going to go off, but let's talk about, not Pete Hegseth, Pete Buttigieg.
Oh, it's about very different guys.
Let's talk about Pete Buttigieg, because people were not happy with what she said about, Pete Buttigieg. And for me to explain, I understand her decision and her reasoning, it doesn't mean that, I agree that I think that he would be a bad vice president or a bad president. I think he'd be a great president. I think he'd be a great vice president. But I do understand her reasoning and why she didn't choose him.
Oh yeah, and I certainly I can't be the one to and try to interpret the feelings of the pressure you must feel as being the first black female vice president. Now you're thrust on the stage. You got to figure it out in real time. Like, I don't really think I'm the one to judge her, to tell her what decision she should have made.
Yeah. Did you hear her answer? What did you think? When you read it?
Look, she's right. Hello. We didn't elect a black woman president, so we for fuck sure wasn't going to elect a black woman president in the game. Like, vice president, like that, it was a bridge too far. She understood her limits. Like, look, I got enough baggage to try to overcome. So she kept it real in that moment. Look, he knows. But I think what he's is like, hold on. I'm trying to call me unelectable because I'm running in 2028.
Yeah.
So I think his response is more so not about 2024, but more so about making sure
how could you critique the way that she felt about where she was positioned and the pressure that she was under and who she'd have to win over just based on her identity?
Yeah.
At the same time as you have Trump saying like she's not black. It's like, how could you expect her to think any different than what can I hit on, like, and just, I don't know. I don't know how you can expect anything different.
Thank you, Jack Cocchiarella. Jack Cocchiarella's show on YouTube.
YouTube?
Where else?
Just YouTube.
No, where else can we get you? Are you on social?
I'm Jack Cocchiarella, if you can spell my last name on Twitter, on Instagram, on, I guess you can hang out on Spotify, a couple of places.
Yeah. And Reecie?
Reecie Colbert on socials. The Reecie Colbert Show is on Sirius XM Urban View on Saturdays. I'm on Clay Kane Show in a minute on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And
you gotta go.
I know, and Clay and I are on tour, kind of like you and DL.
Yes.
Yeah, we have Beyond the Mic. Our next show is in Houston, October 11th. And so, yes, it's Clay and Reecie live.eventbrite.com. So come check us out because we have a good time.
Oh, I forgot you had to. She's like, I got to be out by 11:20. I didn't even see it.
Wait, do the plug one more time. Where do we got to go?
Clay and Reecie live.eventbrite.com to get tickets.
Eventbrite.com.
Eventbrite, yes. And then I have
Clay
a card
and
game.
Reecie at eventbrite.com.
Clay and Reecie live.eventbrite.
Clay and Reecie live.
They got the link in the chat, so just check it out. And then Am I Tripping Game, we got to play it one day.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yes, AmITrippingGame.com. I created a card game as well.
Really?
Yes.
Reecie told us. She is.
I'm a
and she's smart. Reecie told us to get, for our merch store, to get a fan.
Yeah.
We got the fan and put it in the merch store. It's the #1 seller.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman.
So, guys, if you want to know anything about the show, go to donlemon.com. Donlemon.com, you can click on the button with the arrow. That's the YouTube button. That's our main show. There's a subscribe button there. There's a join button there. Also, if you go back to donlemon.com and you click on merch, you can get the merch, the fan that Reecie suggested. And so anything you want to know about the show, subscribe, become a member, not only to my platform, but to Reecie's platform. and to Jack's platform as well. Make sure you support independent journalists and independent media, okay? And so I'm here in D.C., speaking to lawmakers, pounding the pavement, man on the streets, doing talks. I haven't worn a tie in so long. I did a talk this morning.
I felt underdressed. Y'all look great.
I did a talk this morning with Simone Sanders at MSNBC.
Oh, great.
It was so good.
Love.
And we're here for the Congressional Black Caucus. And remember, 1 week to fund the government. And if that doesn't happen, Donald Trump is promising, he said if the government shuts down, he's promising massive layoffs. Folks could lose if you have health care through the Affordable Care Act, your premiums could go up 75%. It's just crazy. So 1 week to fund the government. The Congressional Black Caucus is here. And of course, we got all of this other madness going on in our country. The Don Lemon Show is here for you. So you can be informed without being inundated. Until I see you back here at 5 p.m. Eastern for Lemon Live at 5, turn the TV off. Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.